Hello, welcome back to Humble Running. A little something different today. I put together a mashup of all the different close-ups I've done across my reviews and ABC testing on both Road Trail Run and Humble Running. Usually when I do my reviews and testing, I kind of pull over, maybe take a closer look at some details of the shoe, the upper, fit, sizing. If I'm doing an A/B test, I'll maybe call out some specific differences between the different shoes. These close-ups, of course, are scattered or maybe buried within all the different videos I posted. So I thought it'd be interesting and fun maybe to throw them all together in one big long video. I do put chapters in all of my videos, so feel free to jump around and find perhaps the close-up or comparison for a particular shoe that you are looking for. Or if you're so inclined and you're maybe doing a long ride or long run indoors in front of a television, you could go through and watch the whole thing. As always, I do welcome feedback, questions, comments. If you think this type of mashup is a good idea, let me know. Of course, like and subscribe. I do have some very cool 2025 shoes in the pipeline and in for test, so stay tuned for that. Enjoy. I wanted to make a super shoe that is not specifically designed for flat, runnable, moderate terrain as a lot of the carbon fiber plated super shoes out on the market are now. They really wanted to maintain the mountain focus that they have as a brand. So the main feature, or should I say non-feature of the shoe, is that it doesn't have any plate at all. There's a nitrogen infused TPU midsole used here. There's no Strobel board. There's a foot liner glued directly on top of the midsole, so there's no Strobel board in between. They really want to maintain that ground feel, especially without the carbon fiber plate in the mix. They're using their friction white compound here, so this is their tackiest rubber. Very deep lugs here, full coverage rubber here. They really wanted to maintain that mountain heritage that they have in some of their more burly, beefed up trail models. Another departure for La Sportiva here is the toe box. These are not the La Sportiva toe box that you're used to. This has plenty of width through here. I just love this. I love a wide toe box. It really enhances the ground feel. I don't feel squeezed at all. I would say the shape is almost perfect. There's space to the side of the big toe, rounded out in the front. Great width across the forefoot. I may even dial this in. I left it kind of loose. This is my first test run, so I'm going to try to probably dial this in a little bit. One thing to note is I am wearing a US 10.5 in this, so I know La Sportiva sizing has run a little bit small, short. This is definitely the case here. I was able to try on some samples at the running event. 10.5 is the fit for me. It's perfect. I'm typically a true to size 9.5, so I would go up to 10 for ultra sizing. Here, 10.5 is perfect. I would consider these for kind of any distance type of run. As far as the upper goes, this is, I believe, a TPU coated power wire, what they call here. It's highly breathable. You could kind of see through it. I've been running through some pretty muddy stuff here. I haven't gotten anything into the shoe itself, so it's been pretty great. The ankle collar here, one of the best that I've seen. I mean, the Catamount Agile is a good one. Of course, the Tecton X comes up higher above the ankle bone. This one, if you're gonna have, say, an ankle collar that's gonna be on the lower side, this is really stretchy. I had no problems getting into this, by the way. That's not a problem. It's completely sealed. It's a knit collar. It's highly flexible. I just love this in a trail shoe. It's amazing. Another standout feature that I'll point out is the tongue. This is a booty style upper, so there's no separate tongue. It's all integrated into the knit collar, but you've got these vertical bolsters across vertical bolsters running lengthwise along the tongue portion of this booty upper, and they're pretty thick. They're very thick. They're not soft at all. So that is just perfect. This is one of the best designs I've seen because I like to have my ankle locked in. I like to have my heel seated. I like to have this top of the foot, this part of the foot really dialed, and sometimes I'll leave this a little bit loose. But with these bolsters here, man, I could really like lock it in, and this is no pressure at all on my foot. So you could adjust that tension as you need it. I haven't seen this type of, I've seen, you know, some tongues that have some padding built in, but this kind of vertical orientation and the way that it's really thick, this is one of the best tongues I've seen. No doubt in a booty design, but even for any type of running shoe design, this is really great. I'm dialed here. I love it. This is Merrell's long distance shoe. It joins their really great model lineup, including the Long Sky 2, the Skyfire 2 Matrix, and also the Agility Peak. This shoe's a little bit different though. First I'll walk you through some of the specs, and then later we'll go out and I'll show you some clips out on the run. When I was testing this shoe out in Oregon, as you can see, a little bit more muddy out there than some of my typical trails here in Boise. We have 36 millimeters under the heel, 30 under the forefoot. The foam is Merrell's Float Pro foam. It's a dual density setup, co-molded. I believe it's a nitrogen infused EVA on the exterior that wraps an inner nitrogen infused TPU. So it's a little bit softer underfoot. On the exterior, you have that kind of higher density foam that gives it a little bit of durability, a little bit of control in terms of that foam being too squishy. Underfoot, we've got Vibram Mega Grip 4mm lugs. As you can see, something that's part of this shoe, and probably the reason why they called it the Adapt, is you have these flex grooves here along the side, and also, as you'll see later on the run, there's flex grooves built into the base of the midsole directly under the foot, going both lengthwise and horizontally, and that allows the shoe to flex a bit more than you would actually think when you're handling it. So as I flex this, it does appear to be quite stiff. I do get some twisting here, but it's not a shoe that you could easily fold over, and that's something I'll talk about on the run during the ride section. But getting back to the outsole here, you can see how there's a lot of segmentation here. There's no connection between the outsole here. There's no connection. There's a big X spot right here. Small connections here on the outside. Big gap here. So it's not a fully connected rubber, and I think that works in conjunction with the Adapt setup of the midsole itself. So it allows everything to have a flexible feel, more so than you could actually see when you're handling the shoe in hand. So taking a look at the upper here, we have a Matrix upper, similar to the Long Sky and the Skyfire. Really great. Love the upper. A little bit more width across the toe box, a little bit more volume in the toe box. It's designed for longer distances, so that's to be expected. I have a 9.5 in all three shoes. Those feel snugger, of course. This one's slightly more relaxed, so whatever size you're wearing in those, I wouldn't be worrying about this one feeling snug. They seem to give you a little bit extra space in this one. One thing to note is I do like what they did with the heel collar here. They didn't go with these kind of racy type collars here. There's some small bolstering on the inside of these, and then this kind of floppy edging here. It allows debris to get in. I feel like these heel collars on these two shoes, they're a little bit loose, and the heel counter and the heel cup material is actually a little bit firm. With this one here, they went with a more standard setup. You have bolstering all around. It's pretty kind of normal, and I don't notice that firmness in the heel cup. It really wraps the heel well. I think this is a much better heel. I would like to see actually this kind of setup in those two shoes. It might add a few grams more of weight, but I think the comfort and the security would be improved on those shoes if they had this heel cup and this heel setup right here. So I just ran that first section there. I went back and forth a couple times. I was pretty surprised by how similar these two shoes feel. Both feel really dialed into my foot. I think these are the two most secure fitting shoes probably in terms of mountain ultra running, shorter distances as well, of course. You got matrix upper here, power wire upper here. The La Sportiva does feel a little more spacious in the toe box. I've got a 10.5 here, a 9.5 here. I wouldn't go any lower in the La Sportiva. This one, it feels great right now, but I did take these out for a good bulk of a pretty rugged 100-miler over the summer. And with foot swelling, I got pretty jammed up in my toes. I did a number on my feet over the summer wearing these shoes at Palisades 100-miler. So I could possibly go 10 in these, but I would not go any lower than 10.5 in these. So looking at the forefoot, there's definitely a little more space here, a little bit more volume here. That may be just the volume of my foot itself. I don't feel any loss of security, that's for sure. I could certainly tighten this up a little bit, which I don't like to do. It feels fine just now. The matrix upper, more or less any matrix upper, really wraps the foot well, doesn't bunch. It articulates when your foot moves, as you could probably see there. Matrix uppers are really great. This also really great, just a little bit more volume. Full AB, let's see. Yeah, it's kind of weird going from one shoe to the other. Kind of get used to it after a while, but then now really notice the difference. A lot closer to the ground in the S-Lab Genesis here. The cushion of the Prodigio Pro is way more noticeable after just switching shoes. So my right ankle here, I tend to notice when shoes are not as supportive, kind of feel a little less support in here. It does have, the Salomon does have these kind of, I don't know, rails or whatever over here, but I just feel like I'm a little bit going in a little bit more. Something I didn't notice when I had the Prodigio Pro on my right foot. These side rails, I think I'm maybe seated a little in the shoe more, even though the Salomon has these rails. I don't know, I just feel maybe a little bit more support in these. Could be a personal thing though. The Genesis is probably more agile, as I said right from the very beginning. You get more ground feel. I would say it's a more advanced shoe, but that's not saying that the La Sportiva is not an advanced shoe. I'm just saying that in the sense that having less cushioning underfoot and more ground feel is something that probably more advanced runners can deal with. I think for the general runner out there, you want to have a little bit more cushion and more comfortable with a more cushioned shoe with nearly the same level of security and stability as the Salomon here. So I can't really find too much difference in between. Like I said, it's very slight. This is probably better technically oriented, probably leaning more towards shorter distances due to the agility factor for most runners. Like I said, elites could probably go a lot further. This shoe, I would say, leans more distance for sure. You have more cushioning, it's noticeable under the forefoot. The TPU is more energetic than the EVA here. The EVA, secure, stable, good ground feel. This has a little bit more bounce, a little bit more dynamic ride. So in runnable terrain especially, this shoe is gonna feel faster. It's gonna feel just bouncier, more energetic, more fun to run in. And it also has the mountain chops to stand up against the S-Lab Genesis. Definitely have a little bit of extra material here. There's good amount of volume in this upper. If you have a wide foot or a high volume foot, this shoe is going to work great for you. I've got a medium foot, as I said. It does seem this offset lacing, the throat is kind of wide, so I'm able to pull it in nicely, whereas I don't feel, I'm trying to shift my foot side to side. It's pretty solid in there. When I was running, I don't feel any shifting, and certainly this is more of a long distance shoe, nothing you would be bombing down high-speed technical terrain in any way. So I think it's actually leaning very good in terms of foothold. In terms of the platform, you can see it's wide up front. A lot of the shoes I've been testing, including the Merrell, the North Face, a lot of cruiser shoes, they're similar in width under here, under the forefoot, but then in the rear, they tend to narrow out. This one doesn't. This one, let's see if I can get there. It's super wide back here. So if that's something that you're looking for, I think that probably works better for bigger, maybe heavier runners. It really enhances stability. You're having solid width from here all the way through the rear. If stability is a factor, if you're maybe a bigger runner, this is a great option. Personally, I'm obviously a little bit lighter runner. I'd like to see this maybe pulled in a tad. I don't think it would hurt stability at all to make it more in line with some of those other shoes. I think it would make it feel a little bit quicker, a little less flatter on the ground. You can get a look at the rocker here. As I was talking about, the rocker, I feel it up here by the toes. You can see from some of those running clips, I can run pretty smooth in this shoe, even though it's 11.2 ounces, I believe. It's a heavy shoe, objectively speaking, and for me and my size, it's heavier than I would typically run in, but I'm able to turn it over pretty quickly. I would say it definitely runs lighter than its weight. So you do have that a little bit of a toe spring up here. It's rockered for sure, but it's noticeable on the run, kind of right at this point right here. That's where I feel it. Some of the other shoes I talked about, the Merrell and the Enduris 4, they start more around here. So it's really like you get more of a roll. This one probably leans more into stability than that rocker. In conjunction with having this being super wide, wide, you're landing more flat, you're landing more stable. The upper material is this TPE mesh that is apparently hydrophobic. I haven't gotten these out into rain yet, but it's quite breathable. I like a white shoe anyway. Once summer rolls around and the hot sun is beating down on my feet. It's quite breathable. Haven't noticed any issues with breathability. Foothold is good. The tongue is plenty high enough. This is perfect, love it. The heel, I was gonna say initially that it seems like the bolstering is overly thick. I thought they might have perhaps overdone it, but actually, now that I've had a couple runs in, it feels definitely better. I'm wearing these Norda socks just because they're thick. I feel like I have a lot of volume in this shoe, which I like. I'm at a 10, and I'm about, my toe is about right here. Actually, right here. So I could probably go with a 9.5, but I wouldn't want to. I like the 10 here. I think most people should probably wear bigger shoes than they're actually wearing. So I like the 10. This thick sock, it kind of fills it in for me. So I really like how that feels too. It's a good combo. Obviously the white matches, aside from the name. The rubber there, Brooks Trail Tack Green, good amount of recycled content. I'll put that up on the screen. 4mm lugs, solid traction throughout, no issues at all. As you can see, had a little bit of mud, not too much. I'll talk about sizing here for a little bit. I have a US size 9.0 in this shoe. I had previously tested the TAM initially in a 10. I think on their website they have recommendations about sizing up a little bit. So I'm typically between a 9.5 and a 10. So I figured I'd go with the 10, and they were just huge on me, boats, almost unrunnable. Then I got the PGH, so I said, okay, I'll go with a 9.5. And those, they were okay, they were a little better. The cords were not completely closed over here as they were with the TAM, but that shoe just still felt like it had way too much volume in it for me. Now, luckily, I was able to try on their new road shoe, the RDH, at the running event, and they happened to have a 9 in their backpack. So I tried them on, and I was like, wow, that is really great. So these I got in a 9, and they feel great. I have, 3/4 of a thumb's length in front of my big toe. So this is perfect sizing for me, especially in kind of a shoe for this kind of terrain. You want to be more dialed in. So I don't know what their website it says. I'm going to have to check on that again, but I'm down a half a size in these, and they feel great for me. Maybe that's because I'm a lighter weight, and the GS platform tends to be more of a high volume upper and a wider platform on the ground. Another thing about this shoe, and I was gonna write off Speedland, to tell you the truth, but I saw this strap thing. The problem with those other shoes, there's so much volume in them that when they had the double strap here, I would have to dial it so much to get my ankle locked in that this part of the strap would really cut off circulation in the top of my foot. So I just thought this strap would probably work better for me, and it actually really does. This one, as you can see, this I can keep very loose. The other ones that I tested, I had to really lock this one in too. But this strap, definitely, I cinched this down super tight because I just like it. There's a bit of extra volume in the heel. I'd still say the 9 fits me better, but you could probably, I don't know if you can see here, there's a little, it's a high volume heel on the interior. So I've got a little bit of a thicker sock here, and it's fine, but I could strap this down really good, and I don't get that pressure that I got with the GS platform. So I have a much better overall fit and feel with this one. This one for me is for sure a keeper. I passed off the other two to other testers because I just really couldn't run in them, but these are great. Let's look at the outsole. Michelin, I'll take it off. Actually, it's pretty easy. Dual direction dials, of course. That's great. Pop it off, not a problem. So, what I was talking about earlier with the outsole, full coverage, it's fully connected. So, it's a really flexible shoe, but you could tell that it's the outsole that's really holding things together. That full connection everywhere is really keeping it together, even though it's really flexible. So I like the flexibility of it. This gives you a lot of protection. These are, if you can probably catch the side angle, 6.5 is pretty deep, and there's 2 levels here, so you can cut them off if you want to. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't trim them down. So booty upper, of course. There's no tongue. Slide it in, it's not a problem for me. Dial this, still kind of loose, and lock that in, and I'm good to go. I find about equal width across the forefoot right here, as I was saying. The North Face does seem to taper a little bit more at the toes, where you could probably see here the Brooks just stays wide up front. So I would say this is almost definitely a kind of a topo type fit. Maybe even some of the narrower, not crazy wide ultras with this one. You have that taper here, and also might get a better look when I stop. You have that rocker, which is more aggressive in the Vectiv models. Something I noticed also in my Pro 2 review, you know, it picks your toes up a little bit, so naturally they kind of get squeezed together, and you can almost even feel the pressure from the bottom of the shoe against your toes. Instead of having your toes kind of flat and loose, here you have the bottom of the shoe kind of pushing up due to the more aggressive rocker here. I didn't have any issues with the Pro 2 with that kind of rocker. It's something that I feel, maybe it's more efficient, maybe it helps you in terms of speed and efficiency in longer races. The Brooks, around this area, the fit isn't as dialed. That could be partly due to the underfoot contouring. I feel more support under the arch in the North Face shoe here. The Brooks, generally the platform is flatter, and also inside the shoe there's not as much contouring under the arch here, so I feel flatter also inside the shoe. So that may be a benefit for some if you like the more contoured arch support, kind of like some topos are. This one is the one to go with if that's your concern. Yeah, so due to that, I guess maybe the contouring, I feel a little bit snugger around this area. I definitely feel more secure in this shoe compared to the Caldera 8. The Caldera 8 feels like I've got it snug down. It doesn't feel loose. It doesn't feel like I'm going anywhere in it. But this one feels like, at least for my foot, it definitely wraps a bit better. Before we take off, let's take a quick look at these platforms here. Get a flat spot here. The Caldera, you can definitely see it's wider here The North Face actually has quite a wide forefoot. This is similar to the Pro too. The forefoot is very wide. It's hard to get a level kind of around here, but definitely the Caldera gets wider under the midfoot and the rear. You can see that here. I mean, this is pretty chunky over here, pretty wide back here. If you take a look at the North Face shoe here, definitely slims down, not too much like a speed shoe. I mean, they're still going for stability, but you can see the big difference here between the forefoot area and the narrower heel, and it tapers in around the midfoot. The Caldera, you know, the forefoot and the heel are almost the same width, so that's why and it's also pretty wide over here, so that's why I say when I land it's kind of flat. I'm trying to get a gauge on the profile here. For me, this feels pretty flat from here to here, and then really up here I start noticing the rocker. Let's take a look at this North Face shoe. Yeah, you could see here, maybe I gotta get a little lower. You could see how it's more of a rocker from front to back. The heel is really off the ground about here, and then the rocker really starts here and really swoops up higher here. So I feel when I'm landing, I'm landing about here and really getting into that roll right away. Whereas with the Brooks, I feel like I'm landing more flat. As you can see, this is kind of the landing, and then I start to get into the rocker right forward at the toes. So you may like this kind of feel if you want to have stability, and you really, maybe rocker shoes are not for you. If you're not used to it, I feel like you have to be in a certain rhythm. It helps you keep a kind of steady landing and turnover with this type of rocker shoe. It can be efficient if you are used to it and you enjoy running in this style of shoe. If you prefer to be more stable and you just want something solid to land on, this would be something that you would want to look at. You want to just make sure you have, 4 points on the ground when you land, and then worry about the toe off next. Not all at, this one's kind of like all at the same time, landing and you're going right away. So I've got the Merrell here in a 9.5. The other two shoes, like I said, are 10. Again, I find the forefoot space about the same between all three shoes. Width, it's not as wide as the Caldera and not as tapered as this one. It's somewhat in the middle. Not sure if you could see. You have a rocker, but not as aggressive as the Vectiv rocker here. So I don't have that pressure under the toes from the bottom of the shoe as I do here. Given that I have a 9.5 here, I was initially skeptical, but it works fine for me. Because it doesn't have that rocker and because it's wide enough, I don't get pressure in the front of the toe box. This one I'd be nervous to go 9.5 with, mostly due to that rocker. Then my toes would kind of get pushed together even more, and with the rocker and with the half size down, I wouldn't want to do that in there. Perhaps the Caldera though. The Caldera is spacious and flatter. So I might be able to do a 9.5 in the Caldera. Yeah. These are flatter, definitely wider. Okay, just wanted to get a quick spot check there. So I've got 11.2 ounces on my left foot right here, and I got 10.2 now on my right foot. Definitely platform difference as well. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, quite a difference. I noticed the difference in stack height more with the Merrell here. I didn't notice it so much with the North Face shoe, but with the Merrell, definitely feel higher up compared to the Caldera. It could be that this is just wider and my foot is just spreading out more in this one. So let's take a quick look at the shoes that we just had on. Got the Adapt here, Enduris here. Lining them up, you could see how much wider this one is. The forefoot of the Enduris definitely wider compared to the Merrell here. The Merrell, you're narrower. Notice you have a lot of segmentation in this shoe. Because it does have the higher stack, I think that really helps with the flex. You can see how this shoe really flexes despite having kind of that big stack, and you can see how it flexes around those grooves. This shoe here, a little bit of flex, not so much torsionally, but you can see how it doesn't really adapt as much as this one. It really wants to just roll. Same here with the Caldera. They've added these grooves around here to kind of help, but I guess these definitely help a little bit, but it's more along the lines of this shoe here than the Adapt. So again, putting these up, yeah, it's narrower. See how much more you got here under the heel. Pretty much throughout, this platform right here is narrower. Grabbing my Calderas. These are the shoes on my feet right now. The Caldera's forefoot is about the same, but then you can see the big difference under the midfoot in the rear. Big difference there. So way narrower here. This is so much wider, and this is so much wider. And also, again, you have that flex here. Forefoot similar. The widest forefoot for sure is this one. It does kind of, you could see it from above, it kind of flares out, and that's similar with the Pro model. It flares out to the bottom, so, and it has that cage to kind of stabilize that width, so it still works. All right, I'm gonna turn around here, but before I do, I'll take a quick look at the uppers. Both US 10, I have a full thumbs width, so these are spacious for me. I would say you could go true to size if you'd like. I just have trouble with Brooks in the past, maybe with some irritation here. But going a half size up from my true to size, these are perfect. Both have excellent midfoot hold, same. Maybe notice in the front, seems a bit more height in this one. This seems to kind of pucker. It could just be the way it is, but the way that the laces are pushing this up, and this one may be a little down, but similar vertical space, no problems. In the rear, you've got less padding with this one. Again, it's a more flexible shoe. You get really good flex with this one, so it's not as urgent to really dial in the heel. It just kind of sits in there naturally. They really beefed up the bolstering in here on the interior around here, all the way around. And I assume that's because you might be able to tell you have that plate and the flex is more, it's less flex throughout. In my ABC, you saw I felt a little tiny touch of heel lift, but really not much. Being that they added that padding, zero issue. I would not complain about that. It's just, it seems like they did that because the plate is stiffer here. Again, you see this is quite flexy, stiffer on this one here for sure. Other than that, the platforms are the same. I think they're identical at the midfoot under the rear. I had them side by side. This is actually maybe 2 or 3 millimeters wider here. Maybe just to get a little extra or save a little extra weight. They might have slimmed it a little, but just a touch on this one. More or less the same. Quickly looking at the outsoles here, really not much difference. Both 3.5 mil lugs, similar shapes, traction, durability I find is excellent with Brooks. They're going to be about the same. You'll notice there's some segmentation here. I talked about this in one of my Instagram posts. This shoe is so flexible. See how this one twists? They probably kept this all connected just to add some torsionality, is that a word? To this shoe. Here, again, you're dealing with a stiffer plate, a little more foam. See how I could bend it? Right about here is the flex point here, but everywhere else is, you get a little bit, but I'm having to force it a little more. Definitely stiffer, so I probably segmented this out just to give it, not make it too rigid at the heel. You see it's pretty nice back there actually for a stiff shoe. Again, just quickly looking at this, easily flex. You know, there's way less foam, as I said, with the specs. So there you have it. But as far as the heel cup, I'll give you a quick shot. This is a weak spot that I find with the Terrex Speed Ultra, and something David Roche also talks about, having to really do some strange lacing to get the heel locked in. It's just straight vertical here, and it's kind of loose. And I put this Engo patch in there because I was concerned about rubbing before my 50-mile race. There's not much, you can see there's really nothing in here that goes over the top of the rear of the heel. There's these minor bolstering on the sides, but I think this is an area that really, for the production model, Adidas could really work on solidifying if they were to kind of upgrade this model in the next version. So take a quick look at the upper here. I've got these in a US 9.5. They're 10.7 ounces, which is not super light, but competitive for the Stack 4135, especially with that full coverage outsole, like I mentioned before. The fit is not as wide as the S-Lab Genesis. It's definitely narrower over here. There's less volume in the toe box, less volume overall here. I've got both shoes in a 9.5, and these do feel snugger. I notice a little extra room in this heel area here. Right about here, it feels like a little bit extra volume, at least for me. It could be the case, this tab is kind of high. For some reason, they've got this coming up. You could see a little creasing here where my Achilles is. The material is that kind of S-Lab felt that's been on some of the other S-Lab shoes, so it's very soft. I don't get any blistering or anything on my heel or Achilles from this material. It's just, I don't know why it's a little high. It seems like they could have cut it off about here and maybe been a little better fit. The heel lockdown is not as good as the S-Lab Genesis. I don't have any problems. I don't know if it would be as suited to that really technical terrain and going faster paces, racing at speed, as I like to do in that S-Lab Genesis shoe. It seems like this upper eyelet thing is a little bit low. I don't feel quite the real secure ankle lockdown that is amazing in the S-Lab Genesis. So it's a little bit different. I do like this quick lace garage. This is one of the better garage designs that they have. You pull through, tuck it in nice and easy. Try to think in a quick take anything else as far as the upper. I'm not sure how breathable it is. Feels thick, it's cold out here. It's hard to say until the temperatures warm up. I've got a thin sock on. I feel quite comfortable, not overly hot. I'm not sweating, not swampy in there, but I'm not sure how breathable they are gonna be in hotter months. It's just taking a spin around here. My first run, when I first took them out of the box, they felt a lot more snug than they do now. I was kind of a little worried that maybe I should have got a 10. I think they're okay. My toe's right about here, so, you know, I don't know. If I was going really long distance, I would definitely want a 10, because these are still thin socks and I'm up here. So they definitely seem snugger than, for sure, the Genesis and maybe some of the other. So they definitely feel snugger, at least in comparison to the Genesis. But after the first run, even towards the end of that first run and today, they've broken in a little bit. I feel very comfortable in this 9.5 here. I don't think I'm gonna have an issue with sizing. Again, if I were to consider them for a super ultra distance, 100K, 100 mile, I'd probably want a 10. But for any kind of training, long distance mileage in these, the 9.5 works for me, which is true to size. So if I'm feeling this shoe out, it's kind of hard here. I feel like right under here is where I feel any influence of a sphere. So if you take a look there, it's kind of this spot right here. It's a bit of a concave in there. And I feel that I land kind of like right here. And then I feel that compression right under there. I mean, I don't know what that gets you. I do get some questions about the fit. I know some people are saying they've sized down a lot. I've heard that in the comments. It has packed down a bit since my first run, so I feel more comfortable in this 9.5 than I did initially. I have seen this upper, see how this is bunching here? I can imagine if you have a narrower foot, you may get more bunching as this kind of neoprene booty part slides down. It seems to be, this doesn't bother me at all. It's not bunching. I think I'm good in a 9.5 actually. My toe is right here. So now that it's broken in, I feel better about it. But I could see how this bunching could be more apparent for some people. It does seem like the booty slides in this direction. I mean, it's all fully connected on the inside. But it doesn't bother me at all. I feel like it's a good fit for me. This is true to size, US 9.5 again. So I would not size down. Maybe some people are in between sizes or they're true to size is spacious and then maybe they feel like they have to size down. So I'm typically between a 9.5 and a 10. So maybe me being on the lower edge of that is helpful compared to maybe some other people that are out testing these. So I am back home, 11.3 miles in. I didn't want to misspeak about the upper here. It's not a full booty, but it has these gussets that go pretty far down and they're kind of like the stretchy material. I will say at my US 9.5, they're feeling much better at this point. So I would say they do run true to size. I might have in my first video mentioned that I could possibly need a 10, but they have broken in quite a bit and they are roomy enough in my US 9.5. Something with the tongue here, it does seem to, like, this is a stretchy material here and this is kind of like a neoprene that goes down on top, but it does seem to kind of migrate down, not migrate, but it can tend to be loose even when it's on your foot. I've seen people talking about getting bunching in this area. I think it's something how this neoprene tongue is set up here and with this kind of loose, stretchy gussets there, it kind of wants to slide down a little bit. Yeah, I don't know, just thought I'd give a closer look there. So with this Salomon here, I don't feel really strapped down across this area right here as I do with the Enduris. Like, I don't feel my foot move inside this shoe at all. Normally I would say in more technical kind of twisty terrain, a rocker shoe like this is generally maybe harder to kind of manage, but I think the overall foot security and the fact that I'm really strapped down right here, my foot does not move at all, I could easily handle that. The Salomon is a little bit different here. I don't feel that same level of lockdown right around here. I hit, not all the time, I stepped on one rock with my right foot and I just felt my foot twist inside the shoe and got like, you know, out of orientation inside the shoe. I almost had to shake it back into place. And I noticed that on one of my other runs previously in the ice, I took a wrong step or something and my foot like completely like shifted almost like up on the side of the shoe and I almost had to take a few steps and kind of like get my foot back into place as I was running. I would imagine, just based on having a narrower platform, similar to how I like the MTL Adapt, how I feel like that shoe is more agile because it's narrower, I can get around more than a kind of wider shoe like this. But I don't really feel that's the case with this one just because of that lack of hold. I just feel like my foot is twisting inside the shoe if I push it too far. Something I don't feel at all with the Enduris 4 here. Definitely better upper hold here with the Enduris 4. You can see the width too. This is wider across here. With the rocker, my toes feel a little bit off the ground as I was mentioning earlier. Like I feel the cush more here because I have more ground contact probably up till here. Whereas with this one, I'm a little bit off the ground, starting closer to the ball of the foot, so it feels less cushy. There's 3 mil less, but it's wider, and I like that feel. I feel like my foot is really, I have great feel in this. This I feel just a little touch like I'm constricted in here. So with the more secure midfoot and having the wider forefoot here, allowing me to feel the ground more, I think this is definitely more technically capable than this one. The fact that I can wear toe socks with both of these shows that, yeah, this one is definitely nice and wide, as you can see. And, you know, although I say this one being relatively narrower, you know, there's space for at least a light toe sock in here. So this is the part that I had to readjust when I started. I just feel like this, I don't know, it doesn't feel like it really secures me as well as other quick lace systems from Salomon. I don't know if you could see from the forefoot there. It's narrower for sure than the Enduris, but again, I've got a toe sock in there, so I'm not saying it's narrow at all. The garage is nice, the setup. I don't know if that hinders the security, but yeah, you see how when I pop it off, it just, you know, this, I don't know, not that, you know, any tongue is going to be loose when it's not tied down, but it's just, I don't know, it's not as secure. Yeah, one thing with these, with the North Face shoes, they've gone with this scoop thing, and I think that does let some debris in. So if you're worried about that, you may need a gaiter with these. Let's see what I got. There was something in here. Yeah, see? I got a minor pebble in there. I felt that during the run, you know, it may look small, but over a long time, and if you get a bunch of those in there, that's not fun, or at least it's annoying. So this, and also the Sky too. See, this seems to, you know, it flares back, no issues obviously, that's nice, but stuff, let me get the shot. Stuff can kind of, I think, probably through here, get into the shoe. This is, don't necessarily like this being too tight. It hasn't given me a blister yet, but it definitely, this is the opposite. If you see, I'm standing kind of funny now, but you see how this flares away and this kind of comes towards it. So if you're overly sensitive to this, that may be something. It hasn't bothered me yet because look how kind of loose it is. It's not a lot of pressure, and at least on the inside, it's not rigid. All right, initial feel out here after changing shoes. That always can be a little different feel after having different shoes on. Yeah, feels about the same. I'm not noticing any different impressions. Yeah, definitely feel more forefoot cushion with the Salomon here. More noticeable, noticeably wider with the Enduris 4 again. Also point out, I feel under the front of the toes, I feel the shoe with this because of that toe sweep. It's up off the ground, so I feel it's not bothersome, at least for me. I don't know if maybe you don't like anything kind of pressing. It doesn't press as much as the Pro 2, I'll say, but I notice it here, similar to the Pro 2, but not as aggressive. This one, yeah, it sweeps up a little, but not as much, so I don't feel anything under the toes. All right, put these both on foot here. Let's see, the feeling of softness is very similar, I would say. Let's see, softness-wise, that is. Feel more volume of foam under the Hoka, that's obvious. And it's definitely noticeable under the forefoot, especially compared, maybe the base of the big toe here, this part of the ball of the foot. Definitely have more ground feel with the La Sportiva. Again, no surprise in that regard. But in terms of pure softness, they feel similar. There's just a lot of volume in the Hoka. This is, of course, a true 100-mile shoe. Maybe this could be for some. But yeah, if you're thinking about how the foams feel, this PBA right here and this nitrogen TPU EVA right here, very similar. Just difference in feel under the forefoot again. You have more ground feel here. This one is going to be more agile. So there you go on that. All right, just a quick detail before I go ahead and change shoes. All three of these shoes have a single layer mesh. I believe these are both TPE. The Norda has the Dyneema upper. But if you'll notice, the Brooks and the Norda 005 have a closed mesh. They're similar in look, probably. I mean, they're definitely different in material. The Sky 2 has more of an open mesh design. I'm not sure if you could quite see that. You'd see my finger through there. It's not a closed mesh, so it's gonna be probably 15 or 20 degrees at the start. So if you put me out there in these, my feet are gonna be cold. Quick feel out here. Foam energy feels similar, definitely more underfoot with the Brooks. I gotta trim both of these laces, actually, too long. I will note the sizing here. I've got my test pair in a US 10, and with new brands, especially European brands that I've never run in before, I like to go with my higher size out of 9.5, 10. So I went with a 10. Typically European shoes can be a bit more snug, let's say. But I have these in the 10, and my toes here, I've got like at least a full thumbs width. So if you're considering Icebug as a brand, I would ideally have these in the 9.5. So I would recommend true to size with Icebug here. I figure I'd make an early stop here. I'm not gonna do a close-up on the uppers yet. Just first impressions off the bat. I feel like these shoes feel and ride very similarly. They both have that wide forefoot, so a lot of times I like that wide forefoot because I feel like it doesn't restrict the ball of my foot, and more so like under the ball of my foot, and also the toes a little bit from spreading out on impact. So I just feel like I naturally get a very good ground feel when I have a nice or spacious enough toe box, not excessively wide, ultra wide, even topo wide, but there's definitely enough there where I really feel great ground feel with both of these shoes. You see how this is a little bit wider, so I feel like that makes the upper material really wrap against the side of my foot. And again, this is a matrix upper. You can see these kind of threads, Kevlar threads going here. So I feel like this fit in this area right here is better with the normal shoe. It's wider here, so that allows it to really snug down from the sides. Here, at least this is a 9.5, by the way. This is a 10, and I feel like there's more space in this 9.5. My toe is right here than this 10. My toe is kind of right here. So there's more space in the 9.5 than the Norda 10. So I mentioned in my full review on Road Trail Run, which is live now, I would definitely go a half size up on this, maybe a full size. I did the 20-mile race in this shoe and I was perfectly fine, but if I wanted to go, say, 50-mile, 100K plus, I would want a 10.5, which is a full size up for my true to size in this shoe. So coming back to this is, you see how this is slightly narrower, and you can see, it's hard to tell, but there's a little, like, this material on the sides here doesn't fully wrap against and around my foot as this one. So it's a little less styled, but not bad. I'll pop this off. These laces are also Dyneema, by the way. Apparently they're super durable and lighter, so that's good. So popping this off, you see, I'll throw pictures if this doesn't come out. There's an internal strap here, and this is on both sides, and you see how it's not connected to this upper. So at least in the initial stages when I start my runs in these, see how it also connects to these two gillies here. So you have regular lace holes everywhere else, but then you have these gillies tied into these midfoot kind of straps. They're calling this fit lock, which is the same as VJ called. actually, but they have a little different on the exterior. So yeah, I feel this on the side of my foot, but you can also see it overlaps with the gusseting, so you don't feel any of this edging. Like if you're super sensitive in that way, this is overlapping, so you feel this smooth gusset in front between this strapping and your foot. So I feel these straps definitely wrapping in. When I tension this down, I feel the strapping here, but it's hard to see. Maybe if I pinch it a little, the upper doesn't quite squeeze down. It's the strapping that holds the foot, which, again, like I said on the run, it may vary. If you have a higher volume foot than me, you'll be probably a little wider, and then you will feel kind of the upper wrapping around your foot. For me, the strapping, it works well, and I guess it's good in a way because you can see here, it doesn't really, there's no restriction. Like I don't feel any squeezing, which is really, I hate in shoes when the upper squeezes the foot from the sides too much. That's why this is great, because I like that here, but not here. I'm sweating, it's hot. So that's why I said in my full review that I think this is adaptable for a lot of runners' feet because of that strapping, and because the upper is kind of has a more of a boxy fit, especially through here. But it seems adaptable due to the strapping and also I doubled this up. Due to the strapping and also just the kind of a nice, comfortable volume in the upper. Just check, be sure to check on length, okay? Definitely run short. So aside from the length, this will be probably more adaptable for most runners than this shoe. This shoe, if you have problems with snug, narrower shoes, like I don't have a wide foot, as you can see, like comparing both of these shoes, but if you do have a wide foot, I could see how this could be tight for some. It's like perfect for me, but I know people complain, Salomon, Kilian shoes, whatever, that they're too tight for some. So I'm gonna rock on back down to base camp right now, carrying this Pulsar shoe in my bag, but I think I may like drop off my gloves or my buff, and it's warm. One thing that I'm feeling that I don't remember with the normal shoe is I'm feeling some rubbing on the inside of my foot above the arch area. I'm not sure what that is. To check. I'm gonna pop the shoes off right here. So I actually did wear these shoes at Beaverhead 50K last year and wrecked my feet. There's a crazy, I don't know, it's at least a mile long, a boulder field. Like, not one of those kind of like slide outs that you have to kind of pass over, like straight on the Continental Divide, 9,000 feet, boulder field, like mile long. And this got torn up, my feet got wrecked. The lack of cushion, I'm not sure if I would take maybe I would, but the lack of cushioning in that race made me like shelve them for quite a while. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't know, something, I just felt a little rubbing like right about here in this shoe. It could be this stitching. It actually does feel a little bit rough, this edging on this gusset. It could be that. That's interesting. I don't remember feeling that or ever having a problem. Looking at, let me just compare. Yeah, see the Norda is, I guess they wrap this, they wrap this over and then they stitch it on the tongue side. There is no stitching on this edge here in the Norda, like you have like it's kind of a thick thread here actually. I don't know, maybe if you're sensitive, that is one thing, detail that I have not noticed before. So I have carried this with me. Pulsar. So these two shoes, both designed by Kilian, you could see kind of the similar style in terms of ground platform. I'll throw the numbers up there. Very narrow under the arch. also under the heel, very narrow. He definitely went wider. I think he probably determined that for longer distance he wanted a, you know, wider forefoot on this one. This is the original one, so I have kind of minimal lugs here. They have soft ground, newer versions. I haven't tested them. Yeah, so these are flattish lugs. Comparing them to the 005, I would say they perform similarly. You probably have more on the ground coverage with these, so possibly you get a little bite, but these are not deep lugs. They're not made, I would say, they're definitely not made for muddy or off-trail terrain, but I would say traction is probably similar, probably slightly better in this, but I'm talking about a slight edge here. Again, this is an older shoe, I'm not even going to discuss that one, but look at the difference in the ground platforms between these two shoes. I think this is the widest at the midfoot, heel, and forefoot. Somewhat similar to this shoe, but definitely compared to this one, this is completely narrow. This is ridiculous. So this is a 6.5 ounce shoe, by the way. I just threw this in there because, you know, this is the Kilian shoe. He kind of graduated to this brand and this shoe, and this seems like probably, although Kilian's not involved, a next gen iteration in this style of a lightweight, not a max stack, but, you know, healthy stack here. That's the big difference between these shoes. These are super lightweight, 8.2, 6.5. This is 8.5, slightly heavier, but the difference in cushion is big between this shoe and these two. Definitely noticeable. So at a minor increase in weight, you're getting a big increase in cushion and feel. So let's see, I did bring a different sock because this is, I got these regular Smart Wool socks on. That's also a 9.5, the Pulsar, but extremely tight race fit. You could almost wear these without the lacing. Like, this goes on like a glove. This on. Yeah, I mean, these feel like nothing on the foot almost. These feel light, of course, but when I step, I obviously feel more cushion, absolutely, and the width, for sure. More stability. These are just like pinpoint. Like, you have to be pinpoint on these. The Dyneema upper here, it's kind of a weave here. I have tested the 002 in the past, and that was more of a kind of plasticky type of upper. Definitely had issues with breathability there. Seemed to trap both air and moisture. So I believe that this one will be better, although I haven't fully done water tests. You saw in my ABC test video that I just released, I'm going through the same section right here, and I kind of splashed through a little bit, but I didn't go full ankle deep at all. During that test, the weather wasn't so bad, but the whole time I've had it, it's been obviously winter, so I'm not inclined to go ankle deep and then stay out there in like 20 or 30 degree weather to see how much it kind of dries up or drains out. So with the weather turning a little bit, you know, obviously it's more comfortable to test that kind of thing in warmer temperatures. So looking at the La Sportiva quickly in comparison, this has kind of like really on the outside, you can probably see that, my finger's through there. So the outside is really a completely open mesh. And you have a full booty, fabric booty that runs along the inside. I'm not sure in terms of how much this booty, there's a lot of volume of kind of booty material throughout the interior. So you also have a bit of sidewalls here. So we'll see how that goes. I'll do a quick air test here. Let's see. All right. Definitely air going in and out of this one way easier. So I'm just trying to pass air in and out. I'm trying to check if it's not just going through the exterior. I'm trying to get it through both layers here. Okay, let's check the Norda again. I don't want to get the gusset in the way either. Yeah, this is definitely a tighter weave here with the Norda. I don't know how that will affect the drainage. We shall see. In terms of breathability, yeah, the air's coming in and out of this one easier, so I assume water would, but there could be other factors involved. So stopping here to take a quick look. You see, it's not like, you know, I'm testing the S-Lab Ultra Glide, and that comes way up, obviously. You have something of sidewalls here, a little bit. Maybe I'm kind of in the shoe, maybe this much. It's really not that much. It shouldn't hinder anything from squeezing out. The Norda here, again, you have this TPU thing. You can see how it's a little moist, actually, right at this bottom level. Maybe that is keeping some moisture inside. You could see how it's kind of creeping up from the bottom. So this TPU layer may actually be kind of holding some water in, and then it's getting up, absorbing into my sock and kind of creeping its way up from the bottom. Hard to tell with this one being black, but being this kind of TPU mesh, this is not going to hold any water at all. The booty inside is going to hold the upper. It's going to hold the water. This is not wet at all. It doesn't even feel damp. It feels dry. You know, the Norda has this suede type tongue, so that does feel damp for sure. And the lining on the inside of the heel, you know, including those bolsters, is suede or suede type material, whatever it is. Just look at the insole. Yeah, it seems to be, see again, they have there's kind of a fabric-y, but it's probably more of an engineered mesh, plasticky, not like a cotton fabric-y. Strobel here. The insole's not going to absorb anything, that's closed. The top layer of the insole also, again, it's kind of a polyester-ish mesh there. But yeah, you got these suede type things here, stirrups. The gusset is damp, you know. Let's see this one here. Let's see. It's more, you know, that booty, that's more of a kind of engineered mesh. I got a lot of sand in here. It's kind of stretchy neoprene along the bottom edges here. It seems drier. Of course, this, you can see my hand through here. This is not gonna hold, this is gonna hold zero. Insole, the insole's kind of glued down. There's no Strobel board. There is a little fabric thing around the edge, but nothing in the center. I could see the kind of bouncier foam underneath there, but nothing on the insole is gonna hold water any more than any other shoe. I'd say this one's holding less water. I wouldn't say either shoe is problematic in any way. You could tell this seems damper. The Norda Dyneema upper seems a little bit more wet, especially around the bottom, like as if it's kind of absorbing up around this overlay here. Again, yeah, this one, the outside, I'm not gonna feel anything because this is all TPU, and then the interior booty is gonna hold the water, if any. So quick stop here to take a look at the shoes on foot. Yeah, I don't know if you can tell, just seems like I can spread out wider. This is wider in the Norda, just a touch. And I do think the Prodigio Pro is a quite wide and spacious forefoot. Really like this. I mean, this is probably 100% spot on for my foot. This is probably a hair wide for my foot, but it's more comfortable. I like it. I don't have a problem with that. I may be able to, if I really wanted to, tighten this up a little bit, but I really just like the feel of it. Being able to spread out, it's really good. Also like that I'm so dialed in this one without having to really squeeze it. You can see neither of these shoes, I don't have them laced super tight, and I have probably a good fit. This one, throat is wider here, so I feel like that just adds to the more, I think, dialed fit. This shoe is just generally wider. There's more upper material kind of on the sides. Again, in my other video, you have those stirrups on the inside, so even though you have a little bit of extra material here, the stirrups connected to these two gillies are holding the foot kind of tighter than it would seem the upper material is. Both really excellent fits, really easy to run in. As I'm kind of wobbling around in them now, the cushioning under both of these shoes very consistent throughout. I don't feel like either of them has packed out or kind of condensed under the ball of my foot, which is something that can happen with maybe cheaper foams or, you know, let's say lesser foams. I don't feel any particular area, especially under the ball of the foot by my big toe. Sometimes I feel like that can really compress in certain shoes. Feels very even throughout. This one, it feels like I almost have like a little bit of extra cushion under the ball of my foot by the big toe in the La Sportiva, which is like ideal for me. Really, forefoot cushioning is something that bothers me at the end of long races, and this is great for that. This feels, I guess you have a 7 mil drop, so you do have, less, if you go by what I measured, that would put this at 1 mil less foam under the forefoot, but it feels like more even in this shoe. It feels like I have maybe 2 or 3 more, at least the feeling of 2 or 3 more mils of extra cushioning under the forefoot in the Prodigio Pro. So forefoot cushioning is a factor or an issue for you. That may be something to think about. They're both great. I think the fit is a bit roomier in the 005. More space. It feels great and comfortable though. A little bit more dialed in this. I think you get also a little bit more protection with the denser TPU EVA, probably a little heavier foam. This feels so light and responsive, this one. But maybe over the course of a longer, maybe towards 100K, 100 miler, most people would probably want a little more protection and even give up, you know, this lightweight. Looking at the outsoles here, there's just a lot more surface area with all of these lugs here versus these little T's going around here. See how much gaps you have here. You know, saving weight, but it's not going to be as durable because you're going to rub lesser kind of area here. And of course you can have less traction. I mean, there's less lugs, but the pattern is kind of, they're angled this way. I mean, I'm sure they've tested this in some kind of way, but you know, La Sportiva, they've been using this lug for a while and it works. So there you go. These feel wider now that I put them on. This is a very broad fit in this shoe. US 10 here, okay, so 10, 10, 10.5, and this 10 is the most spacious of these 3 shoes that I've got here. I've got the space in front of the toe, similar to the La Sportiva, and probably as wide, a wider fit, especially over here, as the Norda. This Brooks, the space over here, you got a lot. So if you're bumping some of your toes, this is a good one. So let's see. All right, just first impression on foot. The Brooks feels definitely broader across the toe box, firmer for sure. It doesn't have the bounce or cushion of this Prodigio Pro, and again the 005 as well. Feels like a for sure firmer ride. This is nitrogen infused EVA here, flash foam from Brooks. Just a quick early stop here. Yeah, you can see how the upper, there's a little bit of extra looseness. It's more kind of, it's good if you want a little vertical space in the toe box, but it's just not as dialed. It's a single layer all around. I don't think there's any overlays. They removed those in this version, so I guess they went more, they feel like it wasn't necessary, being that it's oriented more towards speed and distance. You can see there's a little spaciousness in here, whereas this one and the 005 really wrap the foot. I mean, I feel just like this shoe is part of my foot. I feel like I'm kind of in this shoe a bit much. Again, you have this thick cushioning around here. The heel is, I'm trying to see, it moves a little, not too bad. I could perhaps do lace locking if I really wanted to, but it's really not an issue. just compared to this one, just feels like a little bit more extra movement in here. It does feel firmer, broader, and flatter underfoot than the other shoes. I think it's wider. I'll have to check my little sheet there, but it does feel a little bit wider in the forefoot there. Just have a big base to kind of hit that scooped Pebax plate and kind of launch off of it from there. Yeah, having both of these on, kind of equal width, but more dialed with the 005 for sure. There's just more, you could kind of see that. There's more vertical space with the Brooks, so perhaps if you have a high volume foot, a high volume foot will work well with this shoe still. But if you have more of an even high volume foot, heel hold too, really, you know, even now when I could feel that this shoe just flexes just more even, you know, it's way more flexible. There's no plate, the foam is softer, so my heel feels really like completely like this is attached to my foot. The Brooks feel like, okay, it's flexing right here where that plate is, you know, and that's just by design. Not so much flex from here to here, so then you're gonna get that little bit where the heel is kind of, you know, they do a good job with this bolstering, but it just doesn't feel like it's, you know, part of your foot as the other two shoes. Like this Norda just feels like part of my foot. Got these here, Ultra Weave upper, as it says here. There's a few interesting features about this upper that I'll probably take a stop after I run in a while, get a feel for them, and then I'll dig a little deeper in. But as you can see, I've got these in a US 9.5. Got about, I'd say, 3/4 of a thumb's width here, but the fit is just perfect. You can see as I lace these up, not even having to snug them down, you could see how this upper on the sides really didn't move at all. Just, at least for my foot, perfect tensioning. Feels like a perfect foothold. Again, I'm gonna have to get these out on the trail. All right, so let's go. All right, I'm 45 minutes in here. Good time to take a look at the upper. You'll notice I've got a US 9.5. They felt a little bit snug when I first put them on. I'm gonna pop them off in a second here. I put my thin socks on. I was a little concerned they might be tight, but after only, you know, 45 minutes, I feel like definitely got a little bit more space. I mean, the way I've laced them, you could see there's no bunching. These fit my foot like a glove. So I'd say if you have a medium foot, you'll definitely want to go true to size here. My toe is here, so I'd say that's a little less than a full thumb's width. If I wanted to wear thicker socks, and if I wasn't sure distance-wise about these, if I was thinking about going for a 100-mile, 100K kind of distance, I probably want to go with a 10, especially now that I know that the heel hold is so good in this shoe. I probably want to go with a thicker sock and size up by a half. But you could definitely go true to size if you're going to wear medium or thinner weight socks with these. If you have a narrow foot, you'll definitely have no problem with these. You can snug these down. Maybe if you have a very wide foot, you may want to go half size up right away, just because it's really like a race type fit. Really good. Couple details I'll point out here. The lacing is somewhat interesting. You have this power tape, kind of, I guess that gives some structure to the foothold, but then you have a wider gap here. You have eyelets here, and then a wider gilly here, and you have a kind of a space over the top of the foot. And this is actually, you know, this is my foot right here. I guess that's the top bone or part of my foot, and the laces are, you know, going right around that, and it kind of gives some zonal separation between down here. And typically I like to lace maybe the 1 or 2 top rows pretty tight and leave this loose in a lot of shoes. And I think this really helps with that because it doesn't pull the tension across, you know, it doesn't even it out to the bottom where you don't want it. It gives kind of a separate section down here and here. I haven't seen this, or maybe I just haven't paid attention, you know, this kind of spacing between the bottom and the top. I haven't seen that before, so that's interesting and I like it. This here, it's not stretchy. You may think of some of the Hoka models there. This is just, it's for breathability. I guess it kind of separates the section of the upper here, maybe inherently gives a little bit more flexibility to the upper, but this itself doesn't stretch. Lacing them off here. The tongue is pretty thin, not really padded at all. There's a few perforations, but I don't notice any, I think because the fit is so good and the wrap is so good, I don't notice any lace bite at all. So even though there's an absence of padding here, they do give a nice soft edging. There's no hard edges around here, so that's nice. Gusseted on both sides. The gusset is just this foamy kind of thing. It looks actually pretty cheap, but I guess it's just not so the tongue doesn't move around because the fit is so good. I don't think it really matters, but you know, it just looks kind of cheap. On the inside, I talked about measuring and how I measured 2 mils higher for the stack at the heel. There's not a traditional insole. There's kind of like this layer here that's pretty thick. That it may be about 3 mils of a kind of a foam insert that is glued down. So this black part here, it's got some perforations. It's not an insole. I can't take that out. It's glued to the bottom of the shoe. So it's more than 2 millimeters. I'm pretty sure of that. So however they measured their 36, maybe they included that but didn't include the lugs or something going on there. But that seems to give, I guess, a little extra stack on top of whatever they measured. So I do have 38, like I said, that I measured. And this part goes all the way through to the forefoot. And I'm really trying to see what it is. It's just, it's a closed cell. It's not an ortholite type of thing. It's very soft. And it has a really great feeling underfoot. I can imagine this probably top layer contouring over time to the shape of the bottom of your foot, which would be really nice. I mean, it feels nice out of the box, but perhaps you'll get even more customization out of that. The foam, Nitro TPU, I don't notice too much. You know, there's different sections here. I'm not certain if they feel about the same. I don't think they're any different in terms of softness. Again, that plate is in there. It's a carbon plate. This is a plasticky thing. I don't know if that just gives maybe support under the arch so you don't kind of collapse down too much, being that it's a softer kind of TPU. Not sure about that there, but quick flex. You know, with a carbon fiber plate, full carbon, you know, not forked, anything like that, this is a decent amount of torsional flex, I have to say. And look at the rear also, and the same. I never like bending them in half. That always, people do that, and I don't like to do that with my shoes. But just get a sense of it. It flexes pretty well, but then, yeah, it's stiff this way. So when you push into it, yeah, you'll get that propulsion. But as I said, I was going up those hills up and down, and it didn't seem like stiff, like if my heel was wanting to pull out. It just seemed like it was flexing pretty well on the climb. So really excellent performance. Outsole there. Yeah, they're not, you know, mud designer. They're 3 mil, so that's kind of low, but I didn't really have any issue. I think this shoe was really designed for fast, runnable terrain anyway. And this stuff, you know, this is kind of like what I'm running on, and dirt and sand, and it's gripping very well in this. So for me, it's great so far. All right, let's head back out. Again, lacing up. I think I wanted to leave this left one a little looser this time. Tighten this up, and you see those didn't move at all. So I like that. And let's take a look at the heel. I mean, the shoe is bending, the shoe is flexing, and my heel is in there. You know, it's not moving a millimeter, not pulling out at all. It's great.